There is the quarterback issue currently in Miami, which I'm sure somebody will ask about and or whatever. But I mean, the clear path forward was Cam Ward at quarterback. We were all in on that. We brought in other dudes, to visit and said, hey, that's where we want to go. And he debated and decided, and depending on if you believe reports or not, but, Mike Ryan from the Dan Le Batard show, who's fairly plugged when he says things, said, hey, there was an agreement for NIL. Everybody thought that was the green light. After that agreement was made, he went radio silent for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then announced for the NFL. And as a fourth or fifth year guy, I understand, with chronology. Now it's a little bit different at quarterback than it is at like a position where your full locomotor athleticism is the entire basis of your potential in the league. I get it. But still wanting to get there and looking at the landscape and saying, hey, a couple guys came back and whoever, this is the time. Yeah. But in terms of Miami, chips were in, like we all were all in on Cam Ward and him bringing his ability here, covering the performance gap that has been seen at quarterback. Now that he's off to the league, where do you go? Will Howard, I was right before, by the way, he did not go to USC. He visited, he did not commit there. It was supposed to be committed, I believe, but did not actually. But, your favorite team, Ohio State, slow played it, portal closes, and then it's, hey, there we go. He's actually coming in for a visit, to go play for the Acorns and everything. Oh, the other quarterbacks, they can't leave now. And, what are you going to do? But it looks like he's heavily trending that direction and everything. So that's another guy that Miami brought in. He's not coming here. KJ Jefferson committed to UCF. He's not coming here. So it's like, and then we never went after DJ Uiagalelei, and he's going to Florida State. But like, Florida State, again, we've been recruiting against them, and we've lost going head to head with other things for the players that they and we both want, right? We brought in Cam Ward, they brought in Cam Ward. Cam Ward and his father have said the choice was Miami or the league, not Florida State. Jeremiah Smith himself said the choice was staying at Miami or going to O State. Notice how in neither one of those did I mention Florida State, okay? So, I mean, if you want to have that as a moral victory, great. But in terms of chasing a quarterback, where are you going? And for me, I know when I mentioned weeks ago, I wanted Cam and I wanted Dante Moore. And Mark, you were like, oh my God, you're being greedy. Look at Oregon. They got Dylan Gabriel for next year and Dante Moore for the future. They did exactly what I said, just with a different guy at the top. So now it's just like, okay, AA Malik Murphy going to Duke to play for Manny Diaz. So that's another super talented, gigantic dude with a cannon who's not coming here. We didn't even really kick the tires. Why? Because we were all in on Cam Ward. That's another guy that we could have pursued and did not. So now what do? Do you go after Malachi Nelson from USC, bring him in and say, hey, four-way battle, everybody's even, right? Malachi Nelson, Jakari Brown, Emory Williams, if his arm is healed, because who knows, there's rumors that he might not even be available for spring because his break was maybe a little bit worse than they initially thought, and Judd Anderson, all four, bring them in, roll the ball out, whoever wins, wins. Do you do that? Do you stay with the three and try to get like a lower level Jake Heaps walk on just as like a old man in the club to teach them how to be a professional and like kind of raise the floor type thing? I don't know. But I mean, look, it's good that Jakari Brown is staying, first of all, because otherwise you definitely needed the two transfers that I projected before the season because I knew that Tyler wasn't coming back and thought that Jakari could have left, but he's going to be here. So at least you only need one to have four in the room and be really, from a numbers standpoint, comfortable. Not necessarily in performance because, who really knows? But That is the thing. And the breakdown at the quarterback position, this is why I've talked about this so long, getting back to the original point. The breakdown of the quarterback position and performance is the thing that hurt this team so much to lose so many of these games, right? Tyler Van Dyke threw 12 interceptions. Pro Football Focus has 10 of those coming from clean pockets where they say, we're going to play zone and we're going to wait because you're going to throw it to the wrong color jersey. You guys are wearing green. We're wearing white today. Let me get that. We're in North Carolina and you're wearing all white. Cool. That's going to go to the powder Carolina blue linebacker who's sitting there in cover 2 playing underneath saying there has to be a crosser coming behind me because he's looking right here. You know what I mean? And that lack of performance or that poor performance was the thing. So, yeah, you can have these top 5 classes. You can have this talent all over the roster. You can have guys playing very, very well. But at the quarterback position, you have to find an upgrade from the level of performance that was seen, or you have to change up kind of the paradigm whole scale.
Will Howard, I believe, has been ranked by most as the second best quarterback to Cam Ward in the nation. And
in the transfer portal, yes.
In the transfer portal. I don't know how I got the misinformation, but yes, I made this is not my style to make a proclamation that Will Howard had signed at USC. I believe that was substantiated by a number of sites. Maybe they jumped the gun because that's, of course, where I get my information.
Yeah.
Regardless, I thought that was substantiated at the time. It is clearly not. Will Howard is up for grabs.
2 seconds. Be right back.
Sure. So we got Will Howard, the number 1 available quarterback. Now, the Cam Ward has apparently decided to go to the NFL. What I'm going to set up Cam to discuss is maybe I'm overrating KJ Jefferson, but I have been a KJ Jefferson guy for a few years. I don't know what I'm not seeing here. 21-4 and 24-5 TD to pick ratios in the SEC. Tack on another 10 or 12 rushing touchdowns. This dude's racking up 35 touchdowns against very low. And when I first saw him play at Arkansas, I thought, well, they're forcing this guy to be a quarterback. He's an athlete. He's not a quarterback. And within 2 seasons, he's ripping it at 68, 69% completion percentage in the SEC.
Yeah.
He went to UCF.
And
I got to think Miami versus UCF.
But the thing is, we were in on Cam Ward.
I know, but
so even if we're kicking the tires, right, at that point of the process, everybody knows that Cam Ward was our number 1. Even Will Howard, who came in around that same time, even if we were to just say, hey, KJ, you feel like coming down? If he would have tried to commit, what do we do? Probably don't take it. You know what I mean? So I hear you, but of the available options at the time, I think and I think just maybe because of the overall timing with, Florida State, Miami, other teams looking around, I think UCF might have just made out like a thief in the night. I think they just hit it was the perfect scenario timing for them. And yeah, they get a guy who's, averaging, like 35, 37 touchdowns with minimal. Well, he did fumble the ball a little bit, but I mean, still with, fewer than 10 turnovers a year. And they're fine with dink and dunk screen game stuff because they run that really, really well. Screen game, maybe try to hit a big boy throw on a 3rd down when you need to convert it. And then, scheme up some stuff, especially with the running game for a play action shot over the top. He fits that pretty well. And I think that it was the perfect storm, and they're making out like a thief in the night with him.
All right, let's get to these super chats. We appreciate the contributions, folks. Legendary scratch builds.
Okay.
How bright can the future be with Jakari Brown as QB1 after looking at the Pinstripe Bowl? We'll clean up that. Yes, we'll clean up that spelling right there, and seeing his positive steps going forward.
He still needs to take a couple more steps, but you can start to see what you want. Like, you can start to see the picture coming together, right? You remember those things when we were kids, or depending on age, but it was like a kaleidoscope thing, and you had to look at it a certain way and kind of cross your eyes for the 3D picture to pop out.
Sure.
Like, it's starting to get there. Like, you're starting to see the outline of what it can be, like, again, he has a very strong arm. Loved to see that first throw. Would have loved it more if it was caught. There was another touchdown to Xavier Restrepo where Miami got screwed on the left sideline because he was actually in, but whatever. But that was a back shoulder dime, right? You're starting to see, okay, he's starting to use this gigantic arm he has appropriately. Now, did he throw a couple grounders like he was doing infield practice at Yankee Stadium? Yes, he did. Was his footwork off a little bit? Yeah. But was it as bad as before? Absolutely not. So you see, okay, there's steps forward with the accuracy. There's steps forward with just his confidence. Step forward with the variability or the multiple ways to use his arm, right? Because before it was always just as hard as possible. Like, I'm just throwing lasers. Saw a little touch here, hitting a check down on the flat. You start to see those things, right? We're running QB power. We're doing something where it looks like we're running option, and then off of that, we had the trick play to Jacoby George, which he dropped. So you're starting to see, okay, this is what it could look like. And if you take a step forward in progression, there are levels that he can get to based upon his athletic talent. He still needs to develop the skill. Remember, talent is God-given, skills developed. So the talent is there, but you're now starting to see the talent come together in the appropriate way. So it could be where the light is really starting to go off for him, and then he does take a big step forward this offseason and then fall practice. But yeah, you can start to see what we all talked about when we signed Jakari Brown, right? Of this, I mean, he's a massive dude, 6'4.5", 6'5". He's probably up to 225, almost 230 now. Long strider, strong arm, can throw it, can run it. Is a gamer, multiple time state champion in high school, led a fourth down, a drive where they scored on fourth in the championship to win that last state championship in high school. So you're starting to see, okay, he's a gamer. And in the game, even though it wasn't every moment, it wasn't every single play, you started to see that peek through the clouds, that's that ray of sunshine. So it could be bright. The potential is there, but he still has to put in the work from where he is to where he could be to make that happen. But it would be a different looking offense than Emory Williams, because Emory can't run like Jakari, like clearly, and neither can Judd. But the potential is there. Whether that comes to consistent fruition remains to be seen, but it could be bright, especially if he takes another step forward this next offseason, like it seems that he did in this past, year.
So how good are you going to feel about going into next season with the quarterbacks currently on the roster, not just because of your evaluation of their talent, but your confidence in the coaching staff to develop them and to scheme to their strengths?
I still wish that we had a stopgap. I wish that we had a Cam Ward, a KJ Jefferson, just to give them another year just to develop. We don't have that though. So I incomplete at this point. I want to see who or if there's another player who ends up at that position on this roster going into next season. If it were just these three, 6 out of 10 confidence, maybe a little bit positive, but not as positive as I was in the past. But then again, I was very positive about Tyler Van Dyke, and you saw how that worked out. So who knows?
Well, everyone else was too. We should have phased out TVD and stuck with JB11. Mario.
Let me stop you right there before you go on to the rest of that.
Yep.
I hear you. I just disagree with how the season was going. No ill will, no malice. We can disagree without being disagreeable, Eddie. But I hear your point. I just took a different viewpoint. Sorry, Mark, continue.
So Eddie also states here that Mario also has to do a better job at portal acquisitions. Too many duds on this team, and he fears that there are more duds forthcoming in the incoming transfer class.
I mean, again, respectfully, I disagree. Matt Lee and Javion Cohen were transfers. Henry Parrish was a transfer. Colby Young was a JUCO transfer, and he's taking the same path that Lawrence Cager took, and he's going from Miami to Georgia. Francisco Kiko, the linebacker, second team All ACC. KJ Cloyd, low key, was balling. Jaden Davis isn't the biggest player in the world, but I would take what he did over to Corey Couch. You know what I mean? Like, okay. So if you want to say, well, yeah, Devontae Brown, the older Brown brother, who came from UCF, and then now he's in the transfer portal again. Yeah, but Jadaeus Richard from Vanderbilt at cornerback, he worked his way into the rotation through the regular season with guys healthy. You know what I mean? Looks like he could be in a position to take a step forward. Have there been misses? Yeah. Have there been the preponderance of misses as in previous years and previous regimes? Like, you remember Tommy Kennedy from Butler, first team All FCS, left tackle who was supposed to come into Miami and, challenge for that starting job and everything. And a freshman, 6'5", 240-pound Zion Nelson beat him out, and he was second team right tackle. That's a miss in the portal. But I think that we did better through the portal in the last year or two than you're giving credit for. It was not everybody, right? There was Frank Latson, who is transferring again to follow the circuitous path of Mark Pope and end up at UMass. Okay. But Tyreek Stevenson, second-round draft pick of the Chicago Bears in the NFC North, which is won by your Detroit Lions, by the way, was just named NFL Defensive Player of the Week overall as a rookie. Well, for the NFC. That's a guy who transferred back home and did a damn good job. You know what I mean? So, I get that there's all these emotions. It was funny. I was talking with Craig T. Smith, and he wrote his Monday musings on Tuesday because New Year's Day was Monday. And he was emailing me during the day. He's like, Cam, I'm going to scorched earth, bro. I am super scorched earth. There is not a piece of good in this program. Everything. I said, I'll support you if that's what your analysis is. I've been there. Maybe that's your free right to get the emotions out, and you go back and you think about it again from a more pragmatic viewpoint, and maybe you see something different. But if you want to go scorched earth and you want to post that, then go do it. There are few things that I, as managing editor, I'm going to say you cannot say. You know what I mean? And he went back and he looked at it. He said, okay, but I think, Eddie, in the same kind of a way, if you look at the list of transfers in the last couple of years and remove a little bit of the negative emotion of losing this bowl game and not having a successful season as what we wanted, I think there's actually a different picture there, objectively, from the performances that were put on the field. Not just, again, because we disagree in an agreeable kind of way. I really think that there are players you're going to be like, oh, actually, yeah. I think that would be the case.
Tyreek Stevenson, in Sunday's win over the Atlanta Falcons, had 2 interceptions, 5 tackles, and 4 passes defensed. He leads all NFL rookies in tackles, interceptions, and pass breakups, and is 7th in the league in interceptions.
And that is a guy he was at South Dade, transferred to South Ridge, went to Georgia as All-American, did not come to Miami, transferred back, got developed, was a second-round draft pick, and then now has sported this kind of a season that Mark just read about. And 3 weeks ago, he had this incredible diving interception where he was playing man on somebody else, Actually, it was a cane-on-cane crime. They were playing Cleveland, and they were targeting David Njoku up the seam on a combination route. So he's going up the seam, and then they had a comeback on the outside. Stevenson put his right foot in the ground, came across, dove across in front, and intercepted the ball in the end zone. That would have been a touchdown for David Njoku. Cane-on-cane crime. It's an incredible play. One of the best plays you'll see this year. That's a guy who was a transfer in the last couple of years to this program. All I'm saying.
And finally, we've got Paulo coming back. Thank you, Paulo. I'd take at least 9 wins seasons for the next few years, given the last 20 years. Harbaugh said about Ryan Day, not everyone can start at third base.
I mean, we're starting at third base in terms of like where our recruiting grounds are. I mean, we might be starting halfway down the third base line. You know what I mean? And yet, it's getting to be consistently 9-3 would be a huge, huge move for Miami, which has been, as often 7-5 as anything else. You know what I mean? Like that is a huge step forward. And yet, when at the higher you go, the harder it gets. So getting to a 9-3 average, in Paulo's thing, saying like, yeah, we're gonna have this year, next year, year after 9-3, 9-3, 9-3. Dub, big dub. Dubs in the chat, dubs in recruiting. Love that. Not all the dubs on the field, lost a couple games here and there. But then when you set that as your foundation, you're starting to really climb that mountain. So now it becomes really difficult, and you have to really work at the margins to go from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. Those steps are hard, but it would be an easier path to traverse from 9-3 than it would be 7-5, 7-5, 7-5. And now we're supposed to believe that 3 years on from now, all of a sudden we're going to take the leap up and be a consistent 9-win program. I agree with that. That would be a big win for Miami to get to being a consistent 9-win team again. Can we get there? The talent's there. Not maybe at every position, and it's not perfect, but overall, I think that we're getting there. And we just need to close gaps. That's in recruiting, because there's still been misses. That's been transfer portal, where, yeah, I think it's been better than Eddie remembers, but it hasn't been perfect either, right? So that's recruiting, talent acquisition, roster building. Injuries have taken a toll, on-field performance, and coaching and game operations. There is room for growth at every single level of this program. But to get to where we want to be, and as Paulo says, hey, maybe that should be 9-3 and then hope up from there. Even to get to that point from where we are, there will need to be growth on every single level. And hopefully we see it.